What is up, everybody? My name is Isaac Parks, currently the hottest punter on freaking YouTube. Not by popularity or appearance, but raw temperature, as I'm getting cooked alive right now in this hot sun. It is like 99 degrees out here, okay? But welcome back to part 2 of the most in-depth punting tutorial ever gonna be released on YouTube. Okay, so we're on part 2. Today we're gonna be looking at no other than the drop. Okay, we're gonna be looking at the drop. Easily one of the most important. I think drop, steps, swing, all three of those, that's gonna be like the trilogy of level 1 punting are the most important parts of punting, right? Because you can't do anything else if you don't have a good drop. You're not gonna get on any team if you don't have good steps, and your swing is gonna lock a good drop and good steps all together into just like a great performance. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First thing I wanna talk about when we talk about the drop is what is like our goal of dropping it, right? Because we have to have a goal. It's gonna help you assess how you're doing, all that good stuff. So the first thing I wanna talk about is when we're dropping the ball, we are aiming to get the sweet spot of the ball, and the sweet spot of the ball is right in this area, okay? Putting it for both cameras. So when we look over here, that is the spot that we are trying to hit, right? To hit a spiral. And that wasn't a spiral. Dang it, I gotta do that over. So this spot on the ball is the sweet spot, and this is where we're trying to hit to get a spiral, okay? Notice how that spirals and spins and turns over, and that is going to be the optimal way to get distance and hang time in a punt, okay? Is to hit a spiral, roughly like 45-degree angle, turning over. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to get that spiral to go in a straight line from our body, okay? This is the most optimal power to distance to hang time ratio you can create, is in a straight line. Now that doesn't mean straight down the field. It means whichever way we're walking and swinging, we want our drop to be lined up with that, because anything that's not in a straight line is just not optimal. We're losing power, we're losing distance, we're losing hang time, okay? It doesn't matter. I see a lot of guys have like a miss hit off the side of their foot that still spirals and turns over and goes maybe 45 yards, 4.3 seconds. And that's not bad. It's not bad miss hit, but you can't accept that in the sense of being like, yep, there we go, I hit a good ball today, yep, I'm all good, okay? You have to understand that you can get better from that, and if you put all that same energy downfield and move that drop in, you can hit just as good of a spiral. Downfield, you're gonna get better distance, hang time, all that stuff. First, you haven't been punting, this is one of the first punting videos you see, I'm going to quickly set you up with a little drop, but everybody's drop is always just a little bit different, okay? But let's go through the basics of how I drop a ball first, and then we're gonna talk about ways to improve your drop. Here we go. Okay, so first things first, let's look at how I hold the ball, okay? So I have my drop at, it's about mid-rib height, okay? And then just a nice relaxed elbow. Notice how my elbow isn't super tight to my body like this, okay? Now hear me out. If you have already learned to swing tight to your body and kick up through it, it's not bad. This is why teaching punting is so hard, and I'll never teach anybody how to punt, but simply just show you how I punt, because there's so many different ways, okay? But the way I like to drop is a nice relaxed elbow, and what that does for me is it naturally gives the ball a little bit of turn. So what I like to be able to do is see this surface area, right? Because I'm looking right here to try to kick up through that sweet spot of the ball. Anywhere I look, so it's right here on this ball. If you're kicking like a Wilson GST, it'll be at the eye. And what that does is gives me a surface area where I can kick up through the ball and cause it to create a spiral. I like to hold my thumb down this seam, my index finger down this seam, my pinky is on the bottom, okay? And my pinky's down the bottom seam. It's always good to have landmarks while you're dropping, because in the heat of a moment, your mind and your body is going to automatically go back to certain landmarks. So like if I'm in a game, my body automatically is gonna line up these landmarks, okay? Because it's what it knows, it's what it is looking for with muscle memory and consistency. It's just a great way to ensure that you're gonna get a nice consistent drop, because I thoroughly believe when it comes to the drop, you always want to present yourself the same looking ball every time. I see a lot of coaches say no matter how you get the ball, just mold it and get it out there. And they don't mind giving you laces down. They don't care if you hit laces sideways like this. They just say, just do it as fast as you can. I disagree with that. I thoroughly believe you want to present the same ball every single time. I think it's going to make you way more consistent. So now that we have our little mold, okay, thumb here, index finger here, pinky down this seam, and a slight rotation. You want your hand underneath the ball a little bit, right? And what this does for you is, in dry weather, you can hold the ball pretty much however, right? But for me personally, in cold and rainy situations, having my hand underneath the ball a little bit more gives me a lot more grip on that ball. It gets me a lot more surface area touching the ball, okay? And lets me just have better control of the ball when I have it like this. Because like this, look, a lot of that weight of the ball, if I'm like this, is coming out this way, okay? And a lot of guys, when they tend to release the football like this, and they have their hand sort of on the side, when they release it, it tends to catch on the pinky a little bit, and it tends to get pushed out, down and in, just as a result of how your surface area is connected with the ball, right? All the tension is on this right side of the ball. So as I release, it'll release down and in like so. So I like to keep it a little bit underneath, so that way as I'm releasing, it's coming kind of down the chute like this, right through my leg, right onto my drop point, okay? Now other coaches are going to teach you different things. Once again, this is me, this is how I do it. If it makes sense for you and you want to implement it, great. If it doesn't, you can honestly throw this out, because other coaches will tell you all sorts of different things. Some coaches, you know, who knows, maybe a coach wants you to hold it on top. They love it. If it's hot and you can work this drop, honestly, whatever, right? I knew a guy that held it like on top like this, crushed the football, dinged it. So it's kind of still whatever works for you. These are just my tips. So that's the mold. Next, let's talk about how to actually drop it, how to release it from your hand, because there's a couple of different ways to think about this. Okay, so for me, when I'm thinking about releasing it from my hand, I always think about placing it like very quickly, okay? So it's always catch and then move it right to my drop point, which is right about here. Okay, elbow a little bit extended from my body, nice and relaxed, drop flat. We'll get into the angle of the ball here in a little bit, okay? And then once I get it here, it's just all about release that whole arm. I like that whole arm to let go at the same time, okay? Because my drop is at my spot, right? I release the arm and the fingers all in one motion. That way it gives me a really clean release. I have less of a chance to hit it with my hand. If you're a punter who's been punting for a little bit, you know every now and then maybe you'll release with a thumb too early and the ball falls out like so. Maybe you release with like the pinkies or the rest of your hand and don't get the thumb off. So you kind of smack down on it like this, or smack down on it as you're releasing and kind of knock the ball backwards, give yourself something really hard to hit. But for me, it's just dropping the whole arm away. And I always like to think, drop slow, swing fast, okay? I got that one from Coach Dan Orner. And the relaxed arm that I was talking about earlier, relaxed arm to give you a little bit more nose in, because I like a little nose in. Got that from Coach Aaron Perez. I'm gonna try to credit all the coaches that have taught me things, okay? Because I'm not a coach. These are just people that, you know, I'm regurgitating information to you guys, just what I know, what I've learned, and then anything that I've kind of picked up on my own, I'll just tell you guys, okay? That slight relaxed arm, give you a good view on the ball, and then just that whole quick release. Release that arm down. The only problem with this is when you're making sure, the biggest mistake I see guys do is when I tell them to release the whole arm down, they drop this shoulder in, right? They'll go here and then they'll drop the whole shoulder. No, it's not what I said, okay? Just here, whole arm. Just bring the whole arm down and give yourself a nice, smooth little drop. We're gonna do some checks. So, if you're a new punter and you're trying to practice this, what coaches always say is just get a bunch of drops in. And if you're new, I cannot disagree with that. I think just working the drop is gonna be very important. It's the easiest, least taxing part of this formula, right? Between steps, kick, and drop. It's the least taxing and the one that you can work the most. You can work it anywhere. You don't need a lot of space. So let's go over some drills you can do. Okay, so the first drill that I think anybody's gonna tell you to do is just drop it on a line. So notice how I have my right foot on this white line, okay? And as I'm walking, I'm looking to drop the ball on this white line. I've got a little bit of a breeze here, but dropping with the wind is gonna be its own video because it's a whole different concept, okay? But you can see as I walk towards the white line, I'm looking to drop it to get this sweet spot of the ball, like right up through here, to land on the white line over my right foot. Because this is gonna translate well when I'm kicking, it's going to come up. My foot's gonna come up through this line, through the sweet spot, okay? So this is just the most basic, is just to walk and just drop and just try to get it all lined up while you can. And while you're doing this, you're also building in a good habit of walking in a straight line, because I see a lot of guys that when they go to punt, will do this little number. They'll go catch, and then they'll follow this ball out to the right instead of chasing it down where they're trying to kick. So this is the first one, okay? It's just a very nice, simple drill. You can literally just walk around the whole field, just doing drops, okay? And just working it and working it and working it until you get it perfect. And honestly, there's no punter too old to do some drops, okay? The next one that I like to do, because I think all three, drop, steps, and kick, you need to work them all in motion. One of the things I'll almost never tell a guy to do is just work drops just like this. Personally, I just don't like it. I don't think it flows well. I don't think it translates well because the whole thing is in motion, okay? But the next thing I'll tell guys to do is just a little step and then just pass it back to yourself. Just what this allows you to do is just drop, feel that contact, see where your foot's making contact at, you know what I'm saying? You should be passing it back to yourself just because of the angle, but this lets you practice keeping your eyes on the drop, okay? Because you want your eyes to be here, and just if you strike through that spot specifically, it should just pop up a little bit. Very easy for you to catch. It also helps you focus on locking your leg out and getting to your sweet spot of your foot, which is off this metatarsal, but we'll talk about that in swing and not in this one. But that's just a little primer for you. Okay, so this is like a level 2 dropping drill, okay? Is just kind of walk it and pass it to yourself. And as you're walking, you can also check, make sure that your swing's right over the line, and it lets you know how you're messing up. So let's see how you mess this drill up, okay? So if I'm here, my swing's outside, guess where the ball goes? To the right. If I'm doing this drill and my swing's dropping a little in, or my ball is dropping a little inside, guess where it's gonna go? To the inside. So this is just some of the checks that you can do. It's a very basic drill, very good at determining how this is, and while you're at it, you can make sure you're not chasing it by just seeing where your swing lands, okay? So if I'm here and I'm trying to get to the inside to get the ball back up to me, and I'm stepping across and getting here, I can guess that the ball's a little inside, okay? Or if I'm here and stepping to the outside to make sure I can get that ball back to me, I can guess that the ball is a little outside. So look for that too, because you should always want to be just right here. So you catch it, look down, guess where that foot is? On the line. Keeping everything straight, smooth, fluid, and in a line is probably the most important thing you can do. Okay, so for the next level up for our punting, or for working on our drop, we've got this line right here. And what we're gonna do is go drop, drop, and then back it up and work a little pass. Okay? This is not anything special, but what it does is just let you work a couple drops before actually feeling the punting motion. Okay, so now let's talk about probably one of the more controversial parts of the drop. Okay, so I've given you a lot of tips so far, and now I'm gonna get into like the last final little detail, because quite frankly, so many coaches teach it so differently that I was almost a little scared to even talk about it specifically, but I can't leave it out. Okay, we're gonna talk about ball angle on the drop. Okay, because there's this is the thing about the drop has changed the most. The sweet spot, kicking it downfield, all that stuff is the basics. So I don't really, you know, I felt comfortable talking about it, knowing that it's gonna be about the same, okay? But now let's talk about it, right? Should you hold the ball straight? Should you hold it at an angle? And if so, how much of an angle? What works? What doesn't work? Finally, should it be tilted flat, nose up, nose down, what's the best, okay? And this is a complicated subject because the answer is really, there is no best. There's just, I don't know how to tell you, like there's just straight up is not really like a best or worst way. Because the truth is, okay, there are great punters like Thomas Morstead that hold the drop completely straight, that are almost just like this when they punt, okay? There are great punters that hold it with a lot of tilt and make contact with a lot of tilt, almost this much coming off their foot. There are great punters that go a little nose up, okay? That are like this right before they make contact. There are great punters that are a little bit like this, okay? And then there's also great punters that are completely flat. So what you can learn from this is that really you have a little bit of wiggle room, okay? You have a little bit of wiggle room. So the best advice I can give you if you're a new punter and you're trying to look for your form and you're trying to look for what works for you is I'm gonna put you kind of in the middle of everybody, okay? Which means my advice, and honestly what I do for myself, okay, is I go for a flat drop, a tilt at about an 11 o'clock, okay? So what this means is if you're looking at a clock, okay, and I'm gonna use my headset for this. So if you're looking at a clock, this is 12, this is 11, 10, 9, 8, you know, and so on and so on. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, okay? So instead of it being 12, which is perfectly straight, I go about 11. I do this, well, no, probably almost 10:30, okay? 10:30, I do this because it gives me a little bit of room to have that ball come in, okay? It gives me a little bit of room to have maybe a little bit of a push with my palm and straighten it out. And then I do the same thing for how flat or nose up or nose down it should be, okay? I go completely flat because it gives me a little bit of room to bump it with my thumb because I can still hit nose up pretty good. It gives me a little bit of room to push it down because I can hit nose down pretty good, okay? So that would be my advice for you. Go somewhere in the middle of all of those, but most importantly, do something that feels comfortable. Do something that works for you. If you, for whatever reason, like a lot of turn and just feel super comfortable hitting the sweet spot every time, and with your wrist angle and hand angle and arm angle, you feel like right here, you can just smoke balls, do it, okay? If it's comfortable and you can do it every time and the rest of your form around it is looking and feeling good and you're getting a consistent, timely ball down the field, there's nothing against that. I've seen guys with a super tight, slightly nose up drop, okay? That they'll catch it, they'll go a little nose up and let it fall like that. If that is how you like to punt and you are consistent at it and you can make good, consistent contact, do it. The advice I'm giving you is my opinion and how I've made it work for myself, okay? So that's what I'll say about that. Now, if you're a new guy and you want me to instruct you on what to do, here is sort of my more controversial take. I think you should go slightly nose down, okay? Because if you want to know like an easy aspect of it, and when I say slightly nose down, I don't mean like this, I mean just a little bit tilted. And why this is, I'm gonna get it in this camera and hopefully this camera, is because as you release, if you have the nose slightly tilted down like so, as you're releasing, you are very quickly removing all the surface area for that ball to hit, right? As soon as the thumb comes up and that nose is tilted down, it's such a smooth plane for that ball to come off of, okay? You still have great vision of the sweet spot with a little nose down tilt, okay? It's gonna allow you to get a really good drive on the ball, to get a very good playable ball at pretty much any level, right? The only time you might want to really start thinking about flattening it out and getting up through it is when you're thinking about going to the pros. But for high schoolers and honestly a lot of college guys, a slight nose down tilt is going to make you so consistent because there's almost no way, as soon as that pinky comes up, that ball has such a clean release that there's no way anything else can really touch it. So I think it's such a consistent ball and it allows you to hit punts like this with just such ease. It lets you drive it out, and even though, look, that wasn't a pretty ball, it gives you such clean contact that it really is still getting almost 40 yards on a bad miss hit at 20% with no warm-up. I'll do one more for you guys because I do want to get at least a decent ball. Okay, just slightly nose down, and look at that. Just such an easy turnover, very consistent, straight downfield, right where I'm aiming at. So it just gives you a very easy to hit, clean ball. So that would be my advice if I was talking to a completely new punter. But thank you guys for coming out. I hope you learned a little something about a drop, gave you a couple of drills, a couple tips, a couple pointers, just everything, almost everything you need to know, just all the basics for how to drop a football properly. As always, I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next installment of the most in-depth punting tutorial ever. Here we go. Let's see if I can't do a little something for you guys on the last ball. No, I cannot. Have a good day. Whoa.